You're listening to a Whales Are Whales production.
You're also listening to Whales.
Visit whalesorewhales.com for more projects and shows like this one.
Greetings.
Howdy! Welcome to Hearthaholics, a Hearthstone podcast about sitting back, chatting with friends, and making terrible puns. This is episode 22, and I am your host, Bryan. Joining me today is Billy. Hello, Billy.
Hello, Bryan.
And Andres. Hello, Andres.
Hey, Bryan. Glad to be back.
So I said it was episode 22, but I just realized we're actually celebrating our 100th episode today.
100th episode? What?
Yeah!
That might be the other podcast.
Well, you guys were gone this last week. I just really quickly recorded like 77 episodes.
Wow.
Or 67 episodes. I can't count.
Are you feeling okay?
Well, they were each just a minute long.
Oh, okay. You were cheating.
And it was just, me playing Hearthstone and occasionally yelling about getting lethal. And I'm just going to upload all of those before this one. And then we can say it's our 100th episode. So I'm really excited about this.
Apparently Blizzard does really cool things for a podcast who reached their 100th episode.
Exactly. I figure I just got Ben Brode's personal phone number, so I figure I'll just spam it throughout the whole episode and hope he picks up at some point. We'll be good to go. But really, all joking aside, as much as I kind of wish I'd actually done all of that, it has actually been the 100th episode of another podcast that's very special to us recently. Billy, who was that? Pop quiz time.
I'm not sure. Was it like the mildly upset rooster?
No.
Are you sure? It might have been the mildly upset rooster.
I mean, it's possible. There's a podcast out there called The Mildly Upset Rooster. I mean, I've not fact-checked this. So, I'm not going to tell you you're wrong, but I'm going to say you probably are. Andres, do you have a better answer?
I think it's TAC. Or
yes.
The Angry Chicken.
There you go. We have a winner. You even knew what the acronym stood for.
That's right.
Congratulations.
Big fan.
So yes, the Angry Chicken, I believe, premier Hearthstone podcast, the most popular Hearthstone podcast in the world, recently celebrated its 100th episode this last week. And congratulations to them. If it wasn't for their podcast and their community, we wouldn't exist at all.
Yeah.
So major kudos to those guys. I saw the whole, or listened to most of, and saw a little bit of the whole episode. And it was amazing because they had Ben Brode on like the entire episode.
Yeah, that was really fun. For those of you who have not watched this, I definitely recommend this episode. It's super fun with Ben Brode. They have Frodan, and I think they have Karma, and there too is just a famous streamer, or not famous streamer, but a well-known streamer.
They get a lot of interesting discussion going. I thought it was kind of hilarious when they brought Frodan on because he just seemed so excited to be able to ask Ben Brode all these questions that had been on his mind forever.
Well,
he was just like,
we
I want answers.
But like Frodan, this isn't his first interaction with Blizzard employees. Like he's played like Overwatch and everything. Like
totally. I don't think he was like starstruck or anything.
He's in Blizzard's list. He just shows up at the Blizzard's gate and he just says, Frodan to the guard, and he's like, Mr. Frodan, coming in.
Yeah.
Just presses a button.
It wasn't so much like I can finally talk to Blizzard people as much as like I have these really specific things I want to get in depth about because I just love talking about this game.
You're right.
And Ben Brode's like, I don't know if I can go into depth on all of that right now, but it was a really cool discussion what they were able to get through.
Definitely.
So yeah, again, everyone check that show out. In addition to it just being a general celebration of the podcast, which is always fun, it also just had a lot of interesting and also sometimes new information about Hearthstone and kind of the development thoughts behind it. So that was really impressive. And of course, again, congratulations to them. They're doing a wonderful job.
Absolutely. So. Happy centennial birthday. Is that right?
That's actually I think centennial would work because like bicentennial would be 200.
Right.
So, yeah. I don't know why I know Bicentennial more than Centennial. But
I think if Bicentennial is 200, I think Centennial, we should be safe. We should be safe with
Billy, what is Tricentennial?
I mean, yeah.
That's correct. The upset rooster.
The mildly upset rooster. I was trying to get the complete opposite of the angry chicken. Like that was what I was going for there when I was doing
the opposite would be like, the happy duck, which is my new podcast. About, I have no idea. But the happy duck actually sounds like a good tavern. Like, I'm gonna go have a drink at the Happy Duck.
Yeah, that's right.
Could work.
A little restaurant, like a breakfast place.
All right, guys, we have more announcements to get through that I want to throw at the top of the show, so let's get to those. Before we get into our main topics this week, I did have a little more housekeeping to do, because this is important, exciting stuff that you guys might miss since you probably skipped through all the boring end of the show stuff at this point, because it's the same every single week. The first announcement is most of you probably know that we do a game night for the Angry Chicken, speaking of, every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Central Daily Time. And that is not the announcement. The announcement is we are going to start doing a second game night because a lot of people, Andres included, aren't able to make it to the Wednesday night one every week. And sometimes that time is just too late for them to really get much in. So we're going to be starting a second game night that's going to happen at 6:30 p.m. Central Daily Time on Mondays, starting with this upcoming Monday, the 7th. And Andres, you're going to be hosting those for people.
Absolutely. I'll be there every Monday night. We figured it would be a good time to start doing a second one. One, because I can't make it to the Wednesdays ones, and it was one of my favorite things to do. It's such a cool community. You have a lot of fun. It's all about just playing with other people and having fun with each other, getting good laughs. Is one of the best ways to play Hearthstone. And also, we were having a lot of people show up to the one on Wednesday, so I feel like we have enough of a demand to start doing it on Mondays.
That's the assumption. Or come Monday, Andres and I will just play Hearthstone with each other for a few hours.
It's not going to be bad. Maybe somebody will show up.
There are worse fates, indeed. So yeah, I'll be coming to that first one at least. I don't know if I'll be able to make it to every Monday meetup, but yeah, definitely check that out. And again, check out the TAC subreddit over at /TAC podcast to see all that. And there will be links and information in the show notes. Also, we're doing another thing.
I'm excited about this one.
Yes, we're also going to be advertising it on the TAC subreddit, but it is a Hearthaholics small group ladder practice. And I promise I'll get a catchier name at some point once we actually know what this thing is. But on Tuesday, September 8th at 8 p.m. Central Daily Time, we are going to be having a session all about laddering and learning how to get better at playing the ranked ladder, wherein there will be a mentor and maybe 3 or 4 people per call. And you'll be in a group with your mentor and your few friends, and you will be spectating one of the few people in it as the mentor guides them on how to be better at ladder. So it's this idea of getting small groups together, each small group with its own coach, and that small group working together on how they can improve their ladder game and ranked play in general. I think it's something that a lot of people are trying to figure out, especially getting out of rank 20 and rank 18 and starting to get higher up to rank 5. So now that we've been running across more and more really experienced players who are good at teaching at our game nights, we thought it'd be really cool to set up a format where those more experienced players can impart that knowledge in a more controlled environment than the really hectic game nights where, there are 9 and 10 people per call.
Yeah, absolutely. The idea from this comes from that one game night that we did where we did the similar thing. We divided the call into like 3 different calls.
Yeah, 2 or 3.
We just laddered with people and kind of helped them build their decks and take their decks out and guide them through the ladder, explaining how their decks were working. And we had a lot of positive feedback. A lot of people wanted us to do that again. So we're doing this as a separate thing now. This is going to be like the alpha test of this thing. We're going to see how this goes. And if people like it and if it's successful, we want to keep doing this sort of thing because I think there's a lot of people in this group that like teaching to other people and have been playing the game for a while. And it's valuable information for people who are trying to get better at the game. Much better when you can sit one-on-one with a person and show them the way you play, and they can give you immediate feedback on your plays and your play style, how you should do things differently.
Exactly. Yeah. So there will be more details. If that didn't make sense to you initially, it'll all be in written form and more cohesively put together, since I'm doing this all off the top of my head, in a Reddit post that I'll be linking in the show notes. So you all can check that out and figure out exactly what's going on and when it'll be. And
as a disclaimer, do keep in mind that this is the first time we're doing an event like this.
Yes.
We don't know how many people are gonna show up. We don't know if anyone is gonna show up.
Yeah.
Hopefully some people will, though. And we'll take it from there, depending on what cards people have and what decks they want to learn, how many instructors we can get for that day, and how many people end up showing up. We'll decide on a format from that point on.
Yep, it's super experimental, but I'm excited to see how it goes. And if any of you have any thoughts on how we can run it better, or format ideas, or just want to show up and see what you think, go for it.
Anything. It would be great if you guys can tweet at us at Hearthaholics, or just get in contact with us, send us an email of what you would like to see in something like this if you're interested in participating. What kind of decks you would like to learn, what's the main thing that you struggle with in the ladder, all this sort of thing, to just help us, give us a little guideline on what we can offer to you guys.
Yep. Absolutely. Okay. We are done with our longest intro ever, everybody. And we're going to move into our topics of discussion
Hold on. No, we're not.
Oh. What?
You
Billy?
failed this podcast. You forgot to do flavor text. I have got flavor text if you would like me to do the flavor text that you guys predicted at the end of the show.
All right, Billy.
Is this a noun or a verb? We will never know.
Oh, I know what card that is. But I'll wait till the end of the show.
Wait.
All right.
Can you repeat it one more time?
Okay. Is this a noun or a verb? We will never know.
Oh man, this is a tough one.
I know what it is.
It doesn't matter. You don't need to guess until the end of the show.
We guess at the end because
so the idea is, like, we present this flavor text at the start, and everyone who's listening, and also us, have until the end of the show to figure out what it was, and then at the end we get the guess.
All right. Now we're going to move on to our main topics after that very interesting but very long introduction. I'm going to be really self-obsessed and start with my own topic this week, because I just think it makes
how I like it,
topic.
Bryan.
Exactly. Because I want my topic to, take 40 minutes, and then we'll give each of yours like 2. So my topic is actually really broad, but I don't think it'll take all that long, which is just the idea of, what have you guys been focusing on after TGT has come out? I don't know if it's the same for you guys, but I've kind of been refocusing how I want to spend my time on Hearthstone and kind of how I'm going to play it now that I can't just play Zulok on the ladder all day, and probably need to adapt a little bit. So like, has it been arena for you? Has it been playing a lot of Tavern Brawl, ranked play as, old decks just to farm people? Billy, let's start with you. What have you been doing ever since TGT has hit?
At first I was trying like a bunch of experimental decks, just playing with friends really, because it's the most fun I have out of Hearthstone. And then fairly recently, probably within the last couple days, I decided that I'm going to start focusing on arena. Currently have what I've currently been doing is I've been doing one arena on my North American account, then over to my European account, and then just like switching back and forth, and been having a lot of fun doing that, learning from the new cards and etc. So that's kind of been where I've been experiencing Hearthstone.
That's cool. Yeah, what has been we talked about this a little bit last week, but currently, what are your top weird decks from all these new cards?
I've been really enjoying this Beast Hunter deck I've been running with Starving Buzzards, and I played it against Bad Yet Blimp, who is one of the people from the TAC meetup, and he's just like, "Oh my, you made Starving Buzzard good again," and I'm like, that's something that made me chuckle.
I was about to say the exact same thing. Like, I can't believe Starving Buzzard can make the cut in a deck now. That's amazing.
It's like when a card consistently draws 4 cards, it doesn't matter how good the stats are on it, like how bad the stats are on it. Like,
one might say
it's really
that
good.
card is currently starving for attention.
Yes, it is. Like, I don't know, in this type of deck it works.
That's
But
a good
anyway,
one.
yeah, like that, and also I've been running a silly paladin deck, the hobgoblin one.
By silly paladin deck, do you
Hobgoblin
mean
Paladin?
tier 1 secret paladin?
No, that's unplayable.
Oh. You mean your really weird mist-colored paladin deck you got to work?
Wait, you can't even put Mistcolor in the Paladin.
You don't need
That
to.
would,
really
that would be a
weird
weird deck.
You don't
You're
need
right
to.
about that.
You need Sneed's Old Shredder and Youthful Brewmasters so that when Mistcaller pops out of the Sneeds, you can Youthful Brewmaster the Mistcaller, and now you have Mistcaller in
gosh.
Paladin. There you go. That's how you do
But if
Paladin.
Mistcolor doesn't pop out of Sneeds, you insta-concede because the
Exactly,
strategy's
because
ruined.
Because, right?
you failed it. Everything failed. Okay, Andres, how have you been spending your time?
Well, this season has been kind of interesting. I think with this expansion is the first time that I've really decided to embrace kind of like the deck building part and
Ooh.
just build things out of like, I don't know, whatever I can craft, whatever idea I come up with that day.
Mhm.
I don't know, like I think like it's been a while since I've been playing Hearthstone, and it's finally come to a point where like things kind of like click. And once you play the game for a while and you have played enough decks to the point where you have general good knowledge about all these decks, I feel like you start thinking about the game more in terms of certain strategies. And once you think about it in that way, it's just about like building a deck that works for that strategy. So I think that's the exercise that I've been doing. Just thinking about like, okay, I want a deck that can do something like this. Let's pick a class that can do that, and what cards can I put in that can do that.
It kind of reminds me of like learning music, is that when you first start, you just make songs that sound good to your ear. But once you learn the scales and the chords and all of that, you put them together to a template to get the sound you're looking for.
Yeah,
than just kind
it's
of
more
guessing
like
at it.
attempted things with a purpose, right? Rather than
Yeah.
like just putting stuff together and seeing what happens. Is more like,
Yeah.
I want this to happen, so let's put this together.
Gotcha. So what have you been doing? Like what kind of win conditions have you been going for and decks have you been making?
Probably the deck that I've been the most proud of so far, and that has brought me the most joy, is this Lock and Load Hunter
Oh, yeah.
that I built. We'll talk more about it later because I want to talk about it maybe during my topic and stuff.
Sure.
But the beauty of the deck is that it hard counters that Secret Paladin's deck.
Mm-hmm.
And last season, before it ended, where everybody and their mom was playing that Secret Paladin's deck, because I think it was
Right.
like the first like good find that people made in TGT, right? Like, oh, it's a new deck with new cards. It's actually incredibly good. Mostly because there's no deck in the meta game that is prepared for that sort of thing.
You are not prepared.
But if you are prepared and you bring the right cards, you can absolutely destroy that deck. And that Lock
That's
and
what I
Load
thought.
Hunter kind of does that sort of thing. So I was having a lot of fun
Nice.
playing against the Paladins.
You're running
Nice.
like double flare, right? That's how you're winning?
Yes,
Oh.
There you go.
Definitely double flare. But it's not the only way that you counter them. Like, we'll get more into it later. But
Yeah, Flare is fantastic for that deck because it also triggers lock and load, draws you a card. Yeah, that's a good fit.
it's amazing. Like it really wrecks that paladin. But I've been toying around with that sort of deck, which is completely different hunter archetype. Like you play it so differently, and I feel like I still can refine the deck list a little more.
Mhm.
I want to experiment with a few more cards that I think would be good in that deck list. But aside from
Right.
that, I was trying out this like hard board presence aggro paladin, which
Mhm.
was working really nicely. I was using Gormuk, the Impaler,
Yeah.
and I was using the what's the name of her? Darkbane.
Oh, yeah.
Fiorna?
Fiola,
Fiola?
I think. Yeah.
No,
The
no,
one that deals
Fiola,
3 damage.
Fiola is Lightbane.
Adis.
The Adis is the one you're
Darkbane.
thinking of.
Yeah.
It is Darkbane, yeah. I want to get Fiola too. I want to get both to try out this
Yeah.
deck. Because it runs like certain spells where you can buff your creatures, like Blessing of Might. It also runs the new spell that gives +3 damage and Divine Shield. And then you can take over the board really easily with this deck and just hold it. And it's really hard for the opponent to get it back,
that,
especially with Gormok and Darkbane, where you're kind of like being
Yeah.
aggressive and board controlling at the same time. So I was having pretty good results with it earlier today in this season, especially now that is the beginning of the season. Kind of like the aggressive decks work pretty good.
Yeah. So it's kind of that white weenie deck you were wanting before.
Yeah. It's like a white winning style. Also, I feel like I can refine the deck list. I wanted to try out the Justicar True Heart maybe in it as a kind of like a late game sustain kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, I don't have that card yet, but it does excite me for quite a few different decks.
The other card I was trying out that I really, really like, and I feel like a lot of people are kind of undervaluing it, but I don't know. I've been really digging this card is Nexus Champion Sarad.
Oh, I don't have him yet.
I crafted him because I was watching Hotform play with him on his Tempo Mage, and he was playing Sarad instead of Dr. Boom as a 7-drop, just like dropping Sarad and then hero powering. Yeah. Or just because of the deck, the way the deck that plays, you usually have control of the board and you're ahead in tempo, so your opponent is having to deal with their creatures already. So you can set it up a lot of the times where by turn 5 you can drop Sarad on turn 5 and your opponent is kind of like at a crossroads, like, do I deal with this right now? Because if I don't, he's going to get like huge value over time, or I deal with the rest of his super aggressive board that is killing me right now. Yeah. So it works really well in that deck, and I was playing with him and I really, really like how he was working out.
Nice. Well, I'm proud of the both of you for deck building and like really getting into that. I know, Billy, that's always kind of been a passion for you, but it's cool, Andres, that you're starting to transition more into that as well. I've been kind of taking the opposite tack myself, which is I'm like, I don't really know enough about this game to deck build effectively, I don't think. I am going to spend my time getting as big a lay of the land as I can of different decks that people are making. So at the beginning of the season, I'm like, I'm at rank, or sorry, not the beginning of the season, but the beginning of TGT's release, I was like, I'm at rank 3. I need to try to make the push for Legend. And that went terribly. As I explained on last show, that went horribly. I tried to use Zulok for it, and I don't want to talk about that anymore. But after that, I'm like, well, I'm going to go ahead and, try some new decks and just have fun with these new cards and this new meta that's out there. And I enjoyed a little bit of, let's see, what did I face? Dragon Priest is probably my number one that I've tried out of all the decks.
Awesome deck. All the new Dragon decks are in a great spot right now.
Yeah, tried a little Dragon Warrior, tried some Dragon Mage, and so I was sticking mostly with that Dragon Trifecta, but Dragon Priest just like captured my heart because apparently I've heard some people saying it's similar to Undertaker Priest, which I never played much of, but it just has so many solid creatures you can play one on top of the other. There are so many ways to get solid openings, and then you just heal those creatures up, and it's just, you can trade so effectively and keep a constant presence and always have options. I feel like
what they mean when they were saying it's similar to Undertaker Priest is that Undertaker Priest was the only
first
type
priest
of priest deck at that time
that had initiative.
It was a board control deck where you just had like these beefy dudes that got really big, and you could use your hero power really effectively because you always had a big dude on the board that your opponent couldn't just one shot. It's the same with the dragons. You just have these really beefy dudes that are scary and hard to remove, and your hero power works really well in that sort of environment.
Right. Yeah, and it's fantastic. It just synergizes with itself incredibly well. And any deck that lets me play Ysera like every game, I'm happy with.
Yeah, it's awesome playing all those big dragons with that sort of deck. And it also has a lot of tools to keep control of the board because they run like light bombs and all this crazy stuff that works well because your dragons, most of them don't die to that sort of thing.
Yeah, I haven't tried Light Bomb in it yet, but I'm seeing people playing it, and I think it's a good tech to put in there for sure.
I still don't like Light Bomb in any deck. I don't know why, but I've never liked Light Bomb. Can't stand that card.
It can be a really good board
like
wipe.
It? I think it's cool. It's fun. But yeah, it's definitely a card with a very large drawback if you don't get the right scenario. Let's see, I also tried a modern Tempo Mage because I got Ronin. Nice. I named it Ronin on Fumes.
Nice.
I'm a terrible person.
Oh my god, that's amazing. That is by far the best pun you've ever made. That is, oh my gosh, that's good.
So I got, I don't think I like Ronin. I'm not sure I like Ronin, especially in Tempo Mage. But do you like Ronin, Billy?
Well, I said like haha because like that's I don't know. Finally, someone else sees it. Everyone's claiming Ronin's good, and I'm like, I don't
really. I hear everyone saying
I
he's
think
not.
a lot of people were thinking about Ronin in Tempo Mage, but I think he fits a different kind of archetype a little better.
Yeah, greedier.
I can see him more enough like a duplicate effigy, kind of like mage where you want to have all these big minions. Like imagine Ronin into an effigy. It would be so powerful.
I'd done that a little bit. I ran a super greedy one that I actually built myself. But you know how before I was talking about how I don't know how to build decks. That was my problem. Is I did try to run that. I did try to run that kind of greed deck, but I've never played Grinder Mage before, so I just wasn't going in at the experience level. But I agree with you that that's where I think he fits better. Those decks can be pretty hard to play,
especially if you're trying to build them on your own. Because you have to keep in mind a lot of what might come at you, so you can counter it to the point where you can get to your end game, right? To your game plan.
Exactly.
And that requires a lot of like sitting down and playing the game a bunch of times, so you get the right feel for the sort of thing. But I was thinking more of a mid-rangey, duplicate with like Sludge Belchers and like maybe like Sylvanas, Ronin, and like some other cool stuff.
I'm curious, why does that deck want 3 arcane missiles though?
Because it runs into Nidus.
Okay.
You run onto Nidus in it, and then you also, I mean, 3 arcane missiles is not bad. Anytime.
No, yeah, I get that, but like Ragnaros is a pretty good card, and that also costs 8 mana.
True,
but there's the thing. You effigy, you play Ronin into Ragnaros plus 3 missiles. So there you go. It's the best of both worlds.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't heard good things about Ronin yet, and I've had iffy experience, but I still see that potential for him, especially running him with Antonidas.
He's definitely not game-breaking legendary, but I do feel like you can fit it into a lot of decks, and he can be quite powerful.
So this is a side topic, and I want to move on to your guys' topics here really soon. But quick question. Do you think there are many game-breaking legendaries in this set? Like, really, really good ones? I'm
positive people are undervaluing Aviana. Positive.
Okay, so Aviana is one, potentially. Are there any others that you see as super good?
I don't think that there's a super powerful legendary. I think that there's a lot of really interesting legendaries, and there's like a lot of very useful legendaries for certain type of playstyles, but I don't think there's gonna be one that is gonna take over the meta or anything like that.
If that's the case, I'm very happy with that design because I like the idea of legendaries being very specific, very fun, very like situational cards and not staples. Because when you make a legendary a staple, that just makes the barrier of entry for the game so much higher.
Having said that, there's a few legendaries in this set that have already kind of proven to be quite good.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that Justicar has been used a lot, especially in the late game control decks like
That's
Priest
good.
and Control Warrior. It just gives you, and also Paladin, it just gives you so much like late game sustain that the tempo loss in turn 6 is almost insignificant.
It's a battle cry that you can never take away. Like that person, once he plays it, he has that buff for the rest of the game.
It just gives you so much sustainability that a lot of them are running it in that style of control decks, and most of them are agreeing that he's really powerful.
So, quick final question on the legendaries: have you guys played with Varian at all, and does he live up to the hype? Do you think?
I have not played Varian, but I have played against Varian, and I have seen Varian getting played against other people.
Yeah.
He's quite good. Actually, a lot of people were hating on him in Control Warrior, saying that he was not going to be good in Control Warrior, but I think he's proven his worth. Other than that, though, I think there does come that game where you play Varian and a bunch of other minions, and then you get light bombed, or you get wiped with a Shadow Flame, or that sort of thing, and that does happen.
He's not necessarily a card that you just drop on turn 10. There's a downside to him.
I really hate when we're talking about a new card that's announced or something, and then someone goes, well, then they just Light Bomb, or then they just Brawl, or then they just Shadow Flame, and I'm like, well, if you live in this imaginary world where that's gonna happen, 100% of the time, or like if that's like a concern for you, then you just shouldn't ever play cards. Never play a card.
No, okay.
But
so in
we're
this
not
case,
saying it as don't play it because you're gonna get light bomb. It's more like this is the downside of Varian.
right? Because you have to.
Because every
Well,
card
not
has a
really, because
downside.
those cards weren't in your hand before, right? So
No. Here's where you're wrong, Billy. Here's where you're wrong. These
Okay.
are cards that may be all of your finishers. If someone wipes out all of your finishers beyond your control in one sweep instead of letting you play them one by one, that's a downside that you wouldn't get otherwise.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. It's not about hey, light bomb specifically or shadow flame specifically. It's more about the downside of you just played all of your bombs in one turn and they all got wiped. And
Granted,
you got
unlikely.
and you
this
got
is
no
like
battle
a very.
cries out of
This
them.
is a very. Varian is a very unique example, and even still, I don't think he works in this scenario that you're presenting, because Varian doesn't say draw your every single the rest. Varian doesn't read draw the rest of your big minions and put them into play. Varian reads draw 3 cards, and if any of them are minions, put them into play. And sometimes when they're minions, they're not big legendaries, so it's not like it's always gonna set up, your Kel'Thuzar.
Yeah,
and
absolutely. And that's
the
why
Sarah
I
and
started
then
that
get bored with.
sentence saying Varian is a great card and has proven its power, but here's the only drawback that he has.
Yeah, it's a potential. It's a card you need. Going back to the point I was making at the beginning, I just think you need to think about it before playing it. Even more than something like Dr. Boom, it's not necessarily just a drop it, because it can wreck your strategy if you're relying on certain cards like Alex Strasser or something like that. Like, I wouldn't necessarily run him in those decks anyway. But if you are relying on certain cards for their effects to come out at certain times, he can backfire on you.
Yeah, that's the other thing. If you're playing Ronin in your deck, you wanna prioritize
Varian,
running
yeah.
like certain legendaries, right? Like
Yeah.
legendaries with battle
Ragnaros.
cries become way less effective. But let's say like Ysera, Ragnaros, Sneasel Shredder, those kind of like gain value with him.
All right. Well, that should do it for my topic. Billy, what did you want to talk about this week?
Well, before I move into my topic, I want to bring up a teensy topic. What
All right.
did you guys get from your end of month reward chest? Your first ever.
Ooh.
I can only remember my epic.
Well, that's
same
good,
here.
because that's what everyone remembers.
And for me, it was Kidnapper. And that's the most disgusting epic ever. He like literally has ooze coming out of his forehead and his tongue is like waggling. I might actually keep him as golden.
There you go. Softening on the golden stance. Huh?
Tongue waggling physics.
They do look cool, don't they?
They can look pretty cool. What about you, Andres? What did you get?
I got I can only remember my epic too. I got Golden Elemental Destruction.
Ooh.
And I got one in the packs that I opened too, so I have 2. So I
So that's
feel
the
like
new Shaman card that deals, what is it?
5 damage.
Oh, just 5 damage is not varied?
No,
It's
yeah,
4
I
to
think it's
5.
like 3 to 5 or 4 to 5. Yeah, 4 to 5.
4 to 5 damage to the entire board, including
Yeah,
your own.
yeah.
With Overload 5.
Yeah, it's quite a card. I don't know. Maybe I'll make a crazy spell power shaman and see how it goes.
Yeah.
Although I was seeing this guy playing a control shaman that was running that card and some
Good work.
interesting choices. And he was at a pretty good rank.
Here's what you do. You run Death Rattle Shaman. It's back. Baron Rivendare into that. Bam. All your Death Rattles go
Oh
off.
my god, talking about
Twice.
that. Well, we'll talk about that later, but got some cool stories.
All right. Billy, what about you?
I pulled a card which I didn't actually own,
Whoa.
which was a Frost Giant.
Nice.
Oh, that's a really
Golden
good one.
Frost Giant. That's awesome.
Yeah, super excited about that. Anywho,
Nice.
as far as my topic goes, I want to talk about Tavern Brawl. Specifically, what do you guys think of Tavern Brawl now that we've experienced quite a lot of weeks of Tavern Brawl, and we've seen how it will vary from week to week. We've seen the extremes of Nefarian versus Ragnaros. We've seen the downs of, I don't know, what was the worst one? Probably just random decks, right?
Yeah.
So, what do you guys think now that we've seen the best and worst of Tavern Brawl?
So we're talking about, all of Tavern Brawl, not just this last week. So we're saying Tavern Brawl
Yeah, we're
as a
saying
whole.
Tavern Brawl as a mode in the game.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
I think it's very similar to what I was expecting from when they announced it, which is very positive for me, partially because I run the game nights and it provides us something different that's very approachable and easy to understand for everyone that typically doesn't rely too much on card collections. But But additionally, I just think it's a fun way to play with the game in ways you totally just wouldn't otherwise. That said, apart from the game nights, I never actually play it. So I don't know if I'm the most normal test case in that scenario, but what about you, Billy?
In all honesty, I think I'm kind of disappointed in Tavern Brawl.
Okay.
Not because of Tavern Brawl, but because of the stuff like the repeats. I don't like that.
I was expecting that.
Especially this early in in Tavern Brawl's life cycle. Like, there hasn't been very many weeks of Tavern Brawl, and what also frustrated me is it's like we had a repeat 1 week before the expansion, and I'm like, if you were gonna repeat, we could have just waited until the expansion was out. That way we had the new expansion cards to try out in the repeat of that game mode. So it's like, I don't know, I feel underwhelmed in that aspect. Also, just like the random deck one is just like, that was so. It's like we can already do that. Like if I was working at Blizzard, I would have an extreme firm stance on Tavern Brawl has to be something that you cannot do in the game currently, because usually that's usually quite boring. Like, I don't know. I'm
just gonna play devil's advocate real quick for a second. And that Tavern Brawl, sure, anybody can do it because you can just make a random deck and go out to play. But not everyone has the friend list to just make a random deck and then go play a friend. Which I think is a common problem, and this kind of enables anyone to just have that experience. So it's not like completely like lazy on their part that just threw it in there. I think is a valid point to having a brawl like that.
I understand it wasn't them being lazy, but I also don't think it's proper to cater to that, because the alternative is to just make a fun Tavern Brawl that they're going to experience anyway. Like, random, especially double random, is just like, I don't know, it's strange. I guess like the one benefit to having the decks being randomized in Tavern Brawl is you legitimately don't need any cards.
Yeah, that's huge, because random decks are way more fun when you get crazy legendaries than when you're stuck with mostly basics.
But I don't know, that frustrates me.
I'm with you that it's not a quality Tavern Brawl, but also I guess part of the reason I'm not disappointed with Tavern Brawl is my expectations were set lower. I was expecting them to do the random mode. I was expecting it to start repeating after maybe 2 months.
I certainly wasn't one of those guys that was expecting like Nefarian versus Ragnaros every week, right? I wasn't on that level. But I was expecting like the first repeat to be like a long way away. I didn't expect that to happen in the first couple months. Like, it seems strange to me that we're getting. I was okay with the first repeat. I was okay with that because everyone loved the what was it? It was the
Summoner's Challenge.
Yeah, the Summoner's Challenge with like summon in a minion for the same cost of the spell you just played, right?
Yeah.
Everyone loved that. And then we repeated it, and I'm like, okay, yeah, cool, because everyone loved that. Let's play it again.
Yeah.
But the repeat of the random decks, I was like, oh.
So, okay,
really?
Here's the reason they did that, and I'm not sure I like it either. They wanted people who didn't have Grand Tournament cards to be able to start experiencing them.
That's what Arena's
and that was
for.
the way to give it to them.
That was the tweak. That's what the tweak to Arena's for. Like, currently, you said there's a higher percent chance of getting Grand Tournament cards in Arena. That's the tweak. Like, I don't know. You could have had something interesting, like if you want the Tavern Brawl to be able to experience Grand Tournament cards, what if we make it so that, I don't know, this is just completely off the top of my head, you do completely unstable portals, but they can only pull the Grand Tournament cards.
That would be so cool. Yeah, there are lots of cool things they could have done in place, but beyond the like really specifics, what do you think of Tavern Brawl fitting into the game in general, like being one of the main game modes? Like, do you think it's fulfilling a really good purpose? Do you enjoy going to it frequently? Like, on a broad level, how do you think it's turned out?
I absolutely love Tavern Brawl being a mode. I'm still extraordinarily upset that it closes for 2 days. Like, if Tavern Brawl was a thing I knew I could go do any day I want to, I feel like it would be more of a consistent thing for me and that I would enjoy it more. It kind of hurts the mode for me that it's like, well, look, it's Thursday, time to go do the Tavern Brawl, because, well, for me it's Thursday, for the rest of the world it's Wednesday. But, Tavern Brawl pops up, time to go play Tavern Brawl. And then it's just like, I don't know, sometimes because this is kind of a niche circumstance because of where I live, but some days I'm like, is Tavern Brawl still up? Man, I'm too lazy to go check. You know what I mean? Because time zones are an issue for me, so I don't even know if Tavern Brawl's up sometimes. So it's, I don't know.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird. What do you think about Tavern Brawl in general, Andres? How's it struck you?
I like Tavern Brawl. I agree with some of the stuff that you guys say. The thing about Tavern Brawl with me is that I usually play it when it comes out. And it's a cool, like, fun little new experience. I get a pack. Then I might play a few games. I might challenge a few friends. But after that, it wanes off kind of fast. And I don't touch it again. And I think
certainly
the
not
main
a
problem
mode
with it,
where you like press the brawl button. What you do when you want to play Tavern Brawl is you open up your friends list and press the challenge friend. Like that whole search button there doesn't need to be there for me because I never use it. Oh well.
I mean, I use it once to get the pack. Yeah, I think one reason, Andres, is like right when Tavern Brawl started coming out is right when you could no longer come to game nights, pretty much. So you're never...
like it kind of, that's a huge bummer because that's like the sort of thing that you'd want to play Tavern Brawl in, like against
game
friends
nights
and stuff
are
like that.
perfect. Yeah,
because what I was gonna say is that the thing is, if you're not playing with friends or just having like a fun Hearthstone night out, like casually, like you're not anything competitive or anything. Tavern Brawl loses its appeal so fast because you don't feel like you're making a progression in the game, right? Like when you're playing Tavern Brawl, it's fun games, but that's about it. You know, you're not getting your golden heroes, you're not working towards your chest, you're maybe not making gold or packs from arena, which in those modes, when you win a game, you feel like you're progressing in the game, and it is bring you back something, right? Like in the form of gold or dust or something like that, where you can acquire stuff later in the game. Tavern Brawl doesn't have that aside from the pack. So
you're also not like learning a skill or a deck that you can know you can use down the road.
It is skill that you might pick up. I mean, aside from deck building and like knowing the game up and down, which allows you to be good at this mode. You know, any deck that you build in this game is not like you can learn it and then transfer it to constructed.
Ladder ready.
And in this game, which experience makes such a big factor of how good you are, I feel like it works better the other way around, right? Like you become a good Hearthstone player, and then you can come build some crazy decks in Tavern Brawl and have a blast.
That said, I think again we're not. It's interesting hearing our opinions on it because what are you disagreeing with?
The deck building. I think that really does help new players a lot.
I was about to say that because
I don't know.
I agree with that.
My dad plays Hearthstone, and he's the type of player who's like, "Oh, I'm playing a mage. I have access to a 2-mana ping. I'm gonna put Grim Patrons in my deck because now what I can do is I can ping my Grim Patron."
Yep.
What am I going to do after that? Oh, I don't know. It doesn't matter. Put it in the deck anyway. So, like, I experience that type of player on a day-to-day basis, and I talk to him about Hearthstone quite a lot. So, I see the kind of new players building decks, and I think once they get that experience, they start to learn a lot easier than you would imagine.
Yeah, I was about to say that exact thing, which is like, it's interesting hearing us talk about it because we are not the players that Tavern Brawl was primarily introduced for. Tavern Brawl was largely introduced for people who look at something like the ladder meta and it's like, I have so many cards, I have so many options, and this is so fine-tuned, like, what the heck, there's no way I can play this. But in Tavern Brawl, it's like, well, I'll get in every week and I'll see what fun rules they have and, you know, learn that way. And I think it does introduce them in a much more fun, interesting, and less competitive way. It's much like the single player campaign in StarCraft compared to playing a multiplayer. Like there's a big difference between what your goal is and how welcoming it seems to someone who's new at the game. So
I would love a special reward for like triple digit wins in Tavern Brawl.
Yeah, that's what I would like to see.
Like if there was a thing that a player like me who has like infinite amount of time could just go do that, oh, that'd be fun. That'd be a lot of fun.
Even just like 10 dust for every win or something. I don't know.
Actually, I will agree with that. If maybe you could get like anything from like your wins that you put in there, I feel like that would give an incentive of like, okay, I'll actually get my wins this month on Tavern Brawl. So
even if it's just like a golden common for 100 wins, I'll take
one
that.
golden card. One golden card for like 50 wins or something like that. That's a little too much.
No, that should be okay.
And not to be nitpicky, but can we change the one win reward to be like a random pack rather than classic? Because I really don't enjoy opening up classic packs anymore.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there. And I even have a lot of legendaries and stuff left in classic. But I want TGT packs. Gosh darn it.
Yeah. Being incredibly nitpicky now.
Well, it's good to know what they can improve on. So, Andres, what's your topic this week?
All right. Well, this week, since you guys got to talk about last week about the new happenings and all the new decks that were popping in, and I feel like that is still happening very much this week. So I wanted to kind of revisit that topic and talk about how the metagame is evolving, what we're seeing out there, the decks we've been playing and coming up with, and how do we think things are going to turn out?
The only viable deck is Secret Paladin. There is no other playable deck anymore. All bow.
Why don't we start with that? Let's start with Secret Paladin, as it got categorized as tier 1 deck.
On Tempo Storm.
On Tempo Storm, next to Patron Warrior. It actually destroys Patron Warrior. It is really good against it.
So here's my potential theory. Tempo Storm is, forgive my ignorance, that's Reynad, right?
Yes.
All right, so he's trolling everyone.
To be fair, it's not Reynad making the tier list. It's Reynad's website.
It is this week. Is it? No, this is my conspiracy theory, is that he tweaked the website and just put Secret Paladin in rank 1 to trick everyone else and troll the entire community. That's my going theory. I honestly would believe you, because I don't believe that deck is good. But what they actually do is they throw in they get, I think it's not, how many have they got? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So they got 8. 8 experts, and they all get in a call and talk about the meta and figure out what's. At least that's my understanding. They need to
record
record that and release it as a podcast.
Right? That would be awesome. But
anyway. So Secret Paladin's out there. So Andres, for people like me who have not played Secret Paladin, just quickly, what is that deck? What's it about?
Sure. The way I see it is an aggressive tempo deck with the Paladin secrets. So basically what I've seen how they play the deck is like a general aggro Paladin, where they try to put stuff on the board as quick as they can. All the little winny tiny little dudes with Divine Shield and hard to remove death rattles, that sort of thing. They're also playing the Secret Keeper, which I think is fantastic and super awesome. That card finally got play in at least one deck. For those of you who don't know what that is, because honestly it's not a well played card, is a 1 mana 1/2 that every time you play a secret gets +1/+1.
It's old school Undertaker for secrets.
Basically, it's the Undertaker of secrets. And so far, it's been an unplayable card until this deck comes around that runs so many secrets. It's almost like some people run up to 8 secrets sometimes. Although I feel people have been refining the list and they've toned it down to about 6 secrets. That's how they run, between 6 and 8. But basically what you do is you take over the board, you start being aggressive, you start pressuring your opponent, and then by turn 6, you lay down your Mysterious Challenger. And that is the biggest tempo swing that you can have in this deck. You play a 6/6, and then depending on how many secrets you've drawn or still have in your deck, you can play up to 4 secrets, maybe 5, depending how you build your deck, all at once in one turn.
So have you played this deck, Andres?
I've played it a couple of times. Basically how I've won with this deck is most of the time you overwhelm your opponent, and by the time you play all of your secrets, your opponent is so focused on trying to deal with this mess and trying to play around your secrets, and is so worried trying to control your board, which is getting out of hand because of the secrets. And as he removes stuff, then your things get buffed, and then he has to change his game plan because of RNG. So it's a complex deck to play against, and the wild tempo swing that this Mysterious Challenger gives you usually is enough to push you over the edge, where you can just finish overwhelming your opponent and they can't catch up before you're killing them.
Right.
Kind of the reasons why Patron Warrior is having a big struggle against this deck, because this huge tempo swing pretty much comes the turn before they can do their combo.
Yeah. So it kind of slows them down a little bit. So it'd come on like turn 6, and they're a couple turns away at that point from throwing everything out there. So I was talking to a friend of the show, Vincent, about this deck a little bit, and he was curious about my thoughts on it because he'd been seeing a lot of people talk about it. And something that we were talking about is whether it would see the same kind of consistency that other like tier 1 decks before have seen. Stuff like, Patron Warrior and Miracle Rogue back in the day, etc. And a concern is that it's just so play aroundable, from just learning the secrets to kind of triggering them all effectively. That's my one concern with it. And my second one is not a strong enough win condition, as opposed to something like Grim Patron, where you can charge out 30 damage in one turn. Mm-hmm. Something like Oil Rogue, where you can charge out 24 damage in one turn. Something like Miracle Rogue, where you can charge out the Leroy Shadow Step Leroy and get a ton of damage in one turn. This seems like it gives your opponent way more chances to react to it. And as people learn the deck, it seems like people will be able to hard counter it more with stuff like Flare, etc., and then also just be able to play around it more. So do you think that's like a concern for it going forward? Is that its popularity will kind of be its doom, something more like Freeze Mage? I
think those are all fair points, and I think there's several reasons why this deck is so good right now. Right. I think one of them is because it's new, like you said. People haven't learned how to play around the secrets. They're still getting the hang of things. The list hasn't been completely ironed out. But once the list becomes common and people know all the secrets, and maybe some people will trade one secret here and there to mess with people. But once the general knowledge is out there of how to counter the secrets, how to play around them, the order of operations, I think the win rate will go down a little bit. Mm-hmm. Also, on that same train of thought, the metagame is not prepared for a deck like this. The metagame was pretty much prepared to deal with Patron Warrior and that sort of thing. And that's what people were used to, handlocks, hunters, this sort of thing. And then all of a sudden comes out of left field this deck that wins because of secrets. And their main thing is secrets. And people are just not prepared for this sort of thing. But if this becomes a popular deck like it is right now, it'll start seeing some hard counters, mainly in the form of hunters and Kezan Mystics, that sort of thing. So I think sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you.
I
was going to say the cool thing about this deck is that it shakes the metagame in a sense that it makes some established decks really weak against it, but it makes some not so established decks really strong against this Paladin. So it's one of those cool decks that I think is going to shake things up.
Like the existence of it will make certain classes by default
the
better.
mere existence of it is going to make different choices in what people are going to play.
Right. I can see single target removal being a big thing to take care of that challenger, especially since you can get Avenge to proc on it, so it just becomes the one target you need to remove. Mm-hmm. Stuff like Polymorph and Hex and that sort of stuff are even better.
Although I've found that whenever they play the challenger by itself, if they're not really ahead, just playing the challenger by itself is kind of bad. You usually want to play the challenger when you have a board, because your secrets are so dependent on having 2 or more minions on the board to be really effective.
Gotcha. Yeah, I've seen it played alone a few times, so that's interesting to hear. Again, I've faced this deck a total of maybe 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, I'm not saying there's never a good time to just play it alone, but generally you don't.
Interesting. You have any thoughts about this deck, Billy?
I don't know. I don't understand how this deck wins at all. I've versed it a bunch of times that don't even really come close to losing to it. I haven't played it. I don't think this deck will exist in a month.
It's also a deck that a lot of people are misplaying right now, because you're right. Not a lot of people know how to play this. I'm not an expert in this deck. I've played it a little bit. I've seen other people play it. But I think there's still a lot of work to be done in terms of learning how to play this deck, the list, and the decks that are going to counter this deck.
I don't think that's what the issue was running into it. It's just... Even on one of the games I played, guy had the dream, right? Secret Keeper, coin, secret. I forget what the secret was. Next turn, played another secret. And it's at this point, he now has a 3... What has he got? He's got that's a 3/4, right? Mm-hmm. It's pretty good. Still won this game, and he played Mysterious Challenger on curve.
Although I would argue that is not the dream, though. I feel with this deck, you want to hope for as much as possible not to draw into your secrets, and then you take over the board with your little weenies, and then you use the secrets to kind of like buff him and do like big tempo swings.
You still played Mysterious Challenger on curve and got 4 secrets out of it, and I mean, he got everything he wanted.
Admit, though, beyond your anecdotal experience, there's got to be something to this deck if it's getting so much. It's got to be winning somehow, even if you haven't run across how it's winning yet.
Right. I'm not
saying it'll stay around necessarily, but your experience sounds like you haven't seen it win at all. And, unless you've just been playing incredibly well or playing counter decks to it, I would have to imagine it has ways to win you just haven't seen yet.
Sure. That's exactly, I opened up my sentence with like, I don't know how this deck wins.
Right.
I don't get it at all. Like I said, I think that this deck will just be replaced with the other, like last season's aggro paladin in like a month.
I think there'll be space for both. I think both are quite viable right now.
I think it's all about
the secrets are just so easy to play around. It's like, okay, I know exactly what these are. They're Noble Sacrifice, they're Competitive Spirit, they're Revenge, and maybe Redemption.
True. But just because you can play around them doesn't mean that they're not gonna have their effect, right? Like just because your opponent played Freezing Trap doesn't mean that it's screwing you over at that moment.
Yeah, like Mad Scientist has proven just the fact of putting cards into play from your deck for free and getting that tempo swing is powerful. Granted, those weren't Paladin secrets.
The secrets are so bad. Like, I can deal with them all on one turn.
I feel like one of their secrets is bad, but 4 of them in one turn plus a 6/6, that's a different story.
I don't think so. Like, I'm yet to see a Mysterious Challenger be played against me, and I haven't dealt with it on the same turn.
Yeah, I think to me, it goes back to like, how counterable are the counters, and how much to say whether, or how hard are the hard counters going to be to whether we're going back to Old Aggro Paladin.
That was a lie. There was one turn where that didn't happen, and that was because I was playing Druid, and they don't have direct removal. But then the next turn, I top deck Big Game Hunter, and it didn't matter anymore. So
gotcha.
I was just like, every time I haven't dealt with Mysterious Challenger on the same turn it was played, I dealt with it the turn after.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I have my doubts too, Billy. I'm kind of on I think it's a deck that, for one thing, the name Mysterious Challenger is just so darn fitting for that card. Like, it's like Blizzard had planned this. Because out of nowhere, this strange guy who no one predicted, and I say no one, probably meaning someone actually did, but very few people predicted it would actually be amazing, comes out and becomes so far the Grim Patron of this set. Which is just ridiculous. And the fact that he's named Mysterious Challenger is just perfect. He's coming out of nowhere and challenging everyone. And everyone has wildly different viewpoints on him, from the deck is unplayable to the deck is literally the best deck we've seen created from these cards. And that's just awesome.
I'm sure there's something I'm not seeing. But like, I just, every time I see the card, I'm like, all right, sure. Like, it's... I mean,
as one playing Dragon Priest, I typically feel really confident against this deck. But again, maybe I agree with you, Builder. Like, there's something here that I've not been running into, and I'm really curious if that can stick. And that's why I don't know if it's going to be around or not. Like, my instinct is that it's not. Like, it's too counterable. It's too relying on people not knowing what's going on. And it might be like a tier 3, maybe tier 2 deck going a month or two later, but I don't see it really.
I guess we'll see how it evolves. Who knows? It'll stay at the top once people get used to it. Because talking about things that can counter it, that lock and load hunter that I was talking to you about is incredibly good against that deck. I think I sent you the list to that lock and load hunter.
After you beat me with it horribly.
I would love to see the list if you get a chance to send it through Skype.
Sure, I can send it to you. We can put it at the end of the show so some of the listeners can look at it too, because it's a very unusual list. I'm kind of like proud of it because I just built it myself. I did get some inspiration from Reddit, but I modified a lot of the stuff to fit it against this Paladin deck. But basically, you run a bunch of spells, right? Like, I'm running 2 Hunter's Mark, 2 Arcane Shots. I'm running an Explosive Trap and a Freezing Trap. I'm running the 2 Lock and Loads and like 2 Quick Shots. All these spells, I'm running like, I think 1 Unleash the Hounds and 1 Deadly Shot. All sorts of stuff. And then
what really wrecked me... Oh, sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
I was just going through the list and like describing some of the stuff. And then on top of that, you use Wild Pyromancers. You put those in there, because they synergize quite nicely with your spells. You put the Mad Scientists because those guys are just simply awesome with secrets. And then, cool thing about this deck, you run a double Acolyte of Pain with it. And I'm running a double Refreshment Vendor.
I'm so confused.
Yeah,
Really just doesn't understand the meta anymore. It's so weird.
I know this deck is really confusing. You're like, what are you trying to do with this deck? But
that's what I'm thinking. I'm like so confused here. Let's go.
Bear with me here for a second. I'm also running one copy of Dreadscale, the new Hunter Legendary.
Yes,
the one
that's what killed me.
At the end of the turn deals 1 damage to all minions. And then I'm running, on my top end, I have Sludge Belchers, Savannah Highmanes, and then as your finishers, Dr. Boom and Ragnaros.
Okay.
So basically, it's a control combo deck of sorts. You're not relying on any sort of combo, but Lock and Load provides you with a lot of cool synergies that gives you a lot of like longevity with this deck. Starting the match out, you're basically just controlling the board, killing everything on sight, and the Pyromancers are great at doing that. Same with Dreadscale. And if you're facing a Paladin, it's like Christmas, because all of your spells are super effective against them. And with Pyromancer and Dreadscale, you just wipe their board constantly. What I did throughout, like I was playing a few games, I kept running into that Secret Paladin, so I took both Arcane Shouts out, and I put in Double Flare instead of those. And then after I did that, I never lost a game against it. I think I won like 6 in a row against that Secret Paladin deck. But yeah, basically you're just controlling the board, and then once you can find a good spot to do your lock and load, it's kind of tricky because you don't want to unload all your spells without lock and loading them. You kind of want to save a few, but you have so many, and the coin sometimes works with it too. You just save it for a turn where you are going to use your spells to wipe out the board or something like that. You lock and load first, and you just draw a couple more cards.
I'm very curious as to like why. Like I said, I'm not looking at the list right now, but it sounds like the deck is running a lot of card draw, right? And it's a lot of like combo pieces with lock and load.
The card draw comes from the Acolytes, pretty much.
Right,
That's
but I'm counting
card draw.
I'm counting lock and load as card draw.
Yeah, and lock and load for sure.
I don't see the purpose of all this card draw. Like the rest of your deck, besides all of this combo stuff with Wild Pyromancer and lock and load and all of that, the rest of it just seems like mid-range Hunter to me, or even close to Control Hunter with cards like Dr. Boom, Ragnaros, and Sludge Belchers. And at this point, when you're running this type of deck, and that's how you're intending to finish out that game, I don't see the point in running all of this random effects with stuff like lock and load.
What those cards give you, and the problem why it's hard to play Control as Hunter, is that the majority of Hunter lists right now could control the board, but the problem is they run out of steam quite quick, and their hero power does not provide them any board control. So you can't rely on their hero power to kind of like make up for that deficiency. And the problem with using your cards on the board is that once you run out of steam, you're done and you're gonna get overrun. The point of Acolyte and Lock and Load is so you can control the board and then still refill your hand and keep the steam up, not weighing down. Because this deck, unlike most other Hunters deck, is not trying to kill you super fast, although it can, which is one of the cool things about this deck. It can rush you down because of the hero power. And if the opponent is playing a more like conservative kind of style, you can put a lot of pressure with this deck. But the main purpose of this deck is to stay alive and then just kill you with your huge bombs and the hero power like over time. Your hero power is like so good because if your opponent is not putting pressure on you, your hero power is like a little clock that just ticks and ticks and ticks. So you're just trying to prolong the game for as long as you can. That's why I'm running things like Refreshment Vendor, which is a heal that also puts a minion on the board that is not sacrificing too much on stats, that helps you trade with like smaller minions and keep the board under control. That is the point of those cards in there. Just sustain, pretty much.
Interesting. I think that if a hunter wanted to improve its ability to draw cards that lock and load is not the way to go. But that's just my opinion.
The thing about this deck is that you run so many spells, you'd be surprised how much value you get out of lock and load. Sometimes even when you double draw lock and load, this is something that I learned playing this deck, but you can stack them. So basically you can play a lock and load, then another lock and load, and draw a card, and then whatever spell you play from there on draws you 2 cards. And you might think like, oh, but like a random hunter card, that might not be that good, but in all honesty, I've gotten great results from this card, and a random hunter card can sometimes be really, really powerful, especially because you have so many damage spells, you have Unleash the Hounds, and you have like all these big creatures can crush high mains. Even Ram Wrangler can work sometimes.
Wait, why did we go to the bottom of the barrel for Ram Wrangler? Why were we like, oh, even Ram Wrangler can work sometimes? Why not Cobra Shot? I think Ram Wrangler is a good card.
No, he's a good card, but you're not like a beast hunter, so I would say he's the most synergistic one to get.
It's likely you won't have a beast on board, unfortunately.
You do have like Unleash the Hounds and a couple other stuff. It's definitely a kind of like offbeat deck. I'm still refining the deck list, but I've had really good results with it. And the cool thing about it is that because it's so different and the playstyle of this deck is so different from what people are used to, hunters, everybody misplays against you. Everybody just chucks everything on the board because they're thinking like, I just gotta get in here and make this hunter trade with me. And you're just like, yes, put everything on the board so I can just wipe it all.
Interesting.
Yeah. You got me to check how many lock and loads I currently have. Looks like the answer to that is 0.
Oh.
Wait.
It's unfortunate.
2-mana card?
Yeah.
It is a 2-mana card.
Yeah, I have none. I could, of course, disenchant a golden kidnapper and get one.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure yet if I want to spin the dust on another. I don't know. It's intriguing.
I recommend trying this deck out if you want to try out something new. If you want to play a hunter that you've never played before, this deck style is completely different and it's super versatile. I feel like every game with this deck is different, especially with lock and load. It's like you have a solid core of the deck that just allows you to control a lot, and then lock and load is just like this little random little gift giver that is just like, hey, check this out. Have this game. See what you can do with it. I don't know. It's like all these little puzzle pieces, and each game feels different. And it's kind of like a more of a puzzle deck than anything else, because you get like so many win conditions sometimes out of lock and load, or like different cards that you can use in your arsenal. And then the core of your deck is just really solid to stay alive. And the end game, you just put a lot of pressure with your hero power and stuff. I have some plans for it. Like I wanted to maybe experiment with Frost Giants, because I found myself with this deck, a lot of the turns I just wipe whatever is on the board as efficiently as I can, and then I usually have like some spare mana to just hero power. So if I can just hero power for a while and then like have a really impactful late game with like Frost Giant, Ragnaros, or something like that.
So, very important question. Have you gotten Ball of Spiders off of Lock and Load yet?
I have actually.
Okay, did it win you the game?
I couldn't play it because it was too expensive.
Even when you get that card for free, it's unplayable.
By the way, Ball of Spiders is an incredible arena card. I played it in Arena.
Yeah.
I played it in Arena. Oh my, that card is sweet.
I was about to say, having said that, getting a Ball of Spiders in this type of deck is actually not bad. Especially if you're playing against a control deck, getting a Ball of Spiders later on can be quite good, actually. Just 3 random beasts back to your hand. Yes, please.
That's a fair point. Well, I'm excited about the future of Lock and Load. That's one of those fun cards that if we can actually end up playing it in anything besides Arena and Tavern Brawl, that would be nice to see. Unfortunately, I can't test that deck myself. I have to imagine running that list without Lock and Load would be an exercise in futility.
I think you can, but the Lock and Load really, really gives you a lot of sustainability. Like, you almost want to draw it every game.
Right, yeah. So is there anything else in the meta that you guys have been excited about, either seeing or playing?
Not really. People have been being boring, honestly. Like, everyone's just playing cards, decks like... I mean, I guess Dragon Priest is a lot of fun, but like no one...
There's a lot of dragon stuff, like Dragon druid, priest, mage, like dragon everything pretty much.
You're not seeing like Aviana Druid or anything.
I haven't seen Aviana druid now.
Dude, it's a really good deck.
You're
I
seeing
have
like Token
no
Druid.
clue as to why Aviana is not seeing any
What
play.
I
I would
have seen a lot
imagine
is,
it's just like a lot of people wanting to try out the Paladin deck. Like I think Paladin. I don't like that Paladin deck, and I extra don't
think
like
it's
that
stealing
Paladin. Yeah,
your Aviana?
I think everyone's focusing on Paladin. I want people to try out fun cards.
What I have seen in the druid deck is Living Roots and the new 5/4. What Savage Combatant?
Yeah,
I've seen
Combatant.
that.
Oh,
I
and
love Living Roots.
Darnassus Aspirant. Those three are making a huge splash on druid. I was pretty sure that Darnassus Aspirant was gonna make it to druid, but Living Roots kind of surprised me a little bit on how good that card is.
Yep, that's been my what would you say, interesting discovery of the set was how good that card. Well, that one and the 2/4 Taunt and Priest.
Yeah, the current token druid list is only running 1 Living Roots and 1 Power of the Wild, but the Living Roots is a card that I was super excited about, but it was one of those cards that I thought I was going to have to try and be like, oh, this card's really good, trust everyone, why don't you try it? But it's like, everyone kind of picked up. I thought it was going to have to be one of those cards that was like the underdog cards.
Yeah.
but-
Esquire, yeah.
It just covers the weaknesses of the druid. That and the Darnassus Aspirant, especially against aggro, let's say Zoo and Hunter, druid, you would start those matchups just so scared that you wouldn't get your wild growth and maybe a swipe or something, because you knew you were going to have to come back from the board at one point or another. But these guys basically give you a way to secure the board from the get-go while still doing your wild growth strategy, which for druid is just amazing.
Darnassus Aspirant is one of the cards I was like, everyone's got this wrong. This card can't possibly be good. I never thought it was bad, but I didn't think it was going to be as... It's not as good as everyone hyped it to be, but it's certainly a good card.
Yeah, it's really good. It's solid. And I love the story where Andres was facing a hunter, and I attacked my Darnassus Aspirant into a freezing trap. And it's aha, there's my free mana. There's my wild growth.
Nice.
The list I'm running is actually running Brewmasters.
Yeah.
So on turn 2 you can play Darnassus
keep
Aspirant,
duplicating your
and then on
aspirants.
turn 3 you'll have available 4 mana, and you'll be able to play Brewmaster and then replay Darnassus Aspirant. Now that being said, the deck isn't relying on that. It also has extra synergy with Youthful Brewmaster with things like Big Game Hunter. And
That's neat. That's neat. I would say something interesting at the meta. I would call it a disappointment, except I predicted it, so I don't know if I'm setting myself up for failure at that point. But the idea that there aren't really any Inspire decks, and even not very many Inspire cards seeing play. I mean, you've got Savage Combatant.
Murloc Knight.
What?
Murloc Knight.
You got Murloc Knight. You got Savage Combatant.
Murloc Knight. I would watch out for
maybe
Sarad. Sarad,
maybe
I think, is
Sarad,
gonna...
but not really seeing him yet. You're seeing that Shaman one, the Thunderbluff.
Oh yeah, for sure. He's really good.
But not many, and absolutely not any inspired decks, which some people were saying might come along. So it was interesting to see that like we were saying, Inspire cards can make it in a few decks.
I think you shouldn't lose your hopes so soon. I think
absolutely.
Right now what we're basically seeing is the most common progression where people just take existing decks and try and modify them with the new cards. It's gonna take a while, and I'm not. This might not happen, but in my opinion, I think it's gonna take a while for all the true deck builders to experiment enough to come up with a super new concept. I feel like right now, Strife Crow kind of experimented with that Paladin Secrets deck and had a lot of success with it. Kind of became a thing. But I don't know. I feel like we should give it some time to see what a lot of other people come up with and what gets popular.
Totally. It's just interesting to see this so far. Yeah?
Jeff from the TAC Game Night. Me and him were trying to get on some game and we couldn't get on it, so we decided to go play Hearthstone instead. And he challenged me to see who could make the better Inspire focused deck, and we versed each other with these very Inspire heavy decks, and it was super fun. And I think that there is actually room for that type of deck, and if it was to exist, I think it would exist in Paladin, just because Paladin's hero power affects the board the most. And I think that I certainly don't think it's a top tier deck or anything like that, but I would imagine that a Inspire. I'm calling it an Inspire deck. When I say that, I don't mean it's like running fencing coaches and everything, but a deck that happens to be running quite a few Inspire cards will probably be like a tier 4 list and pop up eventually.
It might be around. I expect to see that.
You know what card is really good for Paladin Inspire that some people didn't like? That Mukala's Champion.
Oh, yeah.
No,
The one that buffs him.
shush.
I was experimenting with that guy, and I had so much
I
success. I'm not
spent
even
like
kidding.
3 hours convincing my dad that that's not a good card.
No. I had a lot of success with that card.
No.
You can play it as a one-off in Paladin or in the Token Druid, and it does wonders.
Also, Billy, and I'm a little jealous that you can have 3-hour Hearthstone discussions with your dad. That's pretty awesome.
That is kind of
Right?
cool, yeah.
I was
If I went to my dad like, Dad, Mukula's Champion, he'll be like, wait, what?
well, he
What the heck are you
doesn't
talking
he
about?
doesn't pick up on names so easily, so I have to be like the hippo, the monkey riding the
Monkey
hippo.
and the hippo.
They keep throwing bananas at people. Yeah.
At least they have good ways to describe the cards. They're
Yeah, that's true.
Quite
That's
crazy.
true. Yeah, so I'm excited to see Inspire around more going forward. I thought it was really cool because I loved how Ben Brode explained Inspire on the recent TAC podcast
Yeah.
where he was saying it's like activated abilities in Magic, but for Hearthstone.
Yeah,
and that's what I
absolutely.
always thought about it. And I'm like, yes,
Yeah.
that is what I love about it. Is
I feel like
built- yeah.
I was gonna say it's also an ability that gives you a lot of sustain, right? Like it makes your hero power get a lot of value over time, and
Yeah.
are cards that need to be dealt with immediately, or you can run
Right.
into a lot of trouble. So I think for slower type of decks, the inspired cards are quite
Yep.
nice, and I could see like an inspired deck that maybe tries to do that, right? Just play the long game and gain a lot of value out of that hero power and that sort of
Right.
thing, especially with like Justicar and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I'm with you, Andres. I don't give up hope on more of those cards seeing play, but it's been interesting to see them not really take off.
Yeah,
initially.
yeah.
So, all right, that should do it for our show this week. If you want to find us out there on the interwebs, I'm about to tell you how. One place we are is iTunes. We didn't have any new iTunes reviews this week. So if anyone wants to check us out on iTunes and leave us a review, that's awesome. I know a whole lot of you don't actually use iTunes anymore. It's very interesting as Android has become more and more prevalent, how that isn't the go-to source for everyone anymore. But yeah, if you are an Apple or iTunes user and like our show, definitely check us out on iTunes and leave us a review. You can also email us. We don't have any listener topics this week because we actually didn't get any in this last week. So we would definitely like to be able to discuss the kind of stuff you guys are interested in. So just shoot us an email at hearthaholics@gmail.com and we can read that off on the show. Also, we're on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. Just search Hearthaholics and you'll find us. And we are a part of the Whales Are Whales network, which is a podcasting network that has a bunch of other awesome shows like this with awesome people like us. So just check out Whales Are Whales. That's Whales, A-R-E, whales.com to see, our website there with all our different shows. It's right there on the front page. One of which Billy is on, the Whales Are Whales, podcast, where it just takes all of the different members from Whales Are Whales to chat with each other about pretty much anything in the world and then some. So if you just want a really relaxed non-Hearthstone chat, then check that out. As for where people can find you, Andres, go for it.
Absolutely. People can find me on the Twitters at iPlayGames. You spell that I-P-L-A-I Games. I'd be super interested in hearing if you guys have any suggestions for the training nights that we're about to do in the coming week. Shoot me a tweet or a message. Let me know what you would like me to teach or what you'd like me to go over. What decks are you interested? What kind of format would you like to? We're still trying to decide all this stuff, so I would love to.
Yep.
I would love to hear some feedback from you guys over there.
Everyone craft your lock and loads so you're ready.
Yeah. I'll be
to learn
teaching
from
a
the
lot
master.
of that. No, I'm just kidding. Only if people are interested. It is a really fun deck to play, though.
Yeah. Billy.
You
Oh,
can-
sorry, Andres. No. I forgot you also have your music stuff.
Yes, and my music. Just if you guys want to check out the music that I do, including the intro music to the show, check out my website, massivemusic.com. You spell that Masseve.
Sweet. Billy.
Is it my turn now? Can I do the plugs?
It's now your turn.
All right, cool. I can do the plugs. You can find me on Twitter at twitter.com/fanaticbilly, and then there'll be a link in my description for the brand new YouTube channel that I just launched. It was meant to be like a full launch this week. We were gonna get on like a proper schedule, but some stuff came up, so we just kind of had a light launch this week with only with 2 videos. But next week we'll be on a proper schedule, and you can find that by just typing into YouTube Fanatic Transmission. Bam.
Is Fanatic Billy all one word on Twitter?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so no underscore or anything.
Nope.
Cool. That is awesome. I am excited to see. So, is there anything on the YouTube channel yet, or is it just like a landing page?
There's 2 videos up there because, like I said, some stuff came up. I wasn't able to do a proper launch, but the 2 videos that are up there, I have a Hobgoblin Paladin video, which was super fun to make, and then I have a crazy unlucky. I was using a Beast Hunter deck, and I was versing a Tempo Mage, and some crazy unlucky things happened with Flame Waker. And I definitely think if you're going to the channel to watch either of those 2 videos, I would recommend the one with the Flame Waker in the thumbnail, because there's some crazy stuff that happens in that game.
So that is Fanatic Transmission.
Yes.
And that's just the hub for everything Billy going forward, correct? All your personal stuff?
Yes, it's going to be like Hearthstone. Any new game that comes out that I feel like playing will be on there, and etc.
Very nice.
Sweet. This is a complete quick tangent, but speaking of new games, are either of you guys Metal Gear Solid fans?
No.
I am a Metal Gear Solid fan. I have not tried the new Metal Gear, though.
Yeah, I haven't either, but I'm hearing like ridiculously positive things about
really?
it. So
it looks
intrigued.
really cool.
Someone I hadn't talked to in like 2 weeks randomly messaged me on Steam while I'm in the middle of playing Injustice. He's just like, Billy! And I'm like, what? And he's just like, Metal Gear Solid, insert the title of the new one, I don't know what it is,
Phantom
is
Pain.
really good! And I'm like, oh, cool. And he's just like, that is all! And then logged out.
That's hilarious. I was honestly expecting after 4 and everything kind of wrapped up, it did not do that well. But man, it's getting like 10s everywhere. And like literally everyone I've heard talk about it is incredibly positive. So I'm surprised, I must say. Anyway,
I want to check it out. Yeah, it looks really cool.
But yeah, I still need to go back and beat 4. I'm like halfway through it, but I'm excited to see where that story goes.
Cool.
It's
Are we going to guess
weird.
flavor text?
Yeah, well, if people want to find me very quickly, I am Lord Meldor on Twitter. That is LordMeldorr. And all of my other stuff is on Whales Are Whales because I run it. So lots of new stuff coming there soon. But for now, if I'm going to recommend anything, the Whales Are Whales podcast is just the best place to get to know us and then go on to our other projects from there. All right. Yes. So flavor text, Billy, can you say again what our flavor text this week was?
Flavor text was... Is this a noun, a verb? Oh, sorry. I messed up. Is this a noun or a verb? We will never know.
Now, I think I know what this is because I was going to make a joke and a pun about this card once.
Damn.
Based on this.
Is it? Can I have a clue? Is it a Warlock card?
It is not a Warlock card.
Is it a priest card?
No.
Really?
Bam.
There's another card that is both a noun and a verb.
Yes.
Convert or convert.
Wait, there's
a noun and a verb.
Convert? A card
There's like you're
convert?
a convert to convert is the new priest card that you can like steal. You can target an opponent's minion and become the
that's
card in
right.
your hand.
Have I stumped
and
you
you
guys?
can be a convert to a religion, which is a noun, or you can convert someone, which is a verb. Gosh darn it!
So what's the card? Because I don't have no clue.
Wait, give me a second to think now that I lost my actual guess.
You thought you had it. Nope.
It literally fits the flavor
I
text.
thought it was like Bane of Doom or something like that, but I guess that's not.
A noun or a verb.
Yeah, it's not a noun or a verb.
And it's not warlock, so
Yeah.
mortal coil, which doesn't fit anyway. I don't know. I could sit here guessing forever, but my guess is gone, Billy. So we lost this round.
The answer is mulch.
Wait. I'm trying to think now. Is that? Yeah. You're right. That is a noun and a verb. Gosh darn it.
Because you can mulch,
Yeah. That was playing dirty, Billy.
or
I
you
was
can
playing
grab
dirty.
some mulch.
Let the hunt begin.